one boy, one stone, one impossible battle for 40 days. An entire army trembled in fear before a monster, a warrior so massive, so terrifying, that even seasoned soldiers refused to face him. Kings feared. The valley of Elah had become a place of fear. On one mountain stood the army of Israel. On the other stood the Philistines. Between them, a battlefield stained with tension. Neither side attacked, neither side advanced, because every single morning, something terrifying happened. The Philistine camp would suddenly fall silent. Soldiers stepped aside, and from the darkness emerged their champion, Goliath of Gath, the giant. He stood over 9 feet tall. His armor gleamed like iron fire beneath the sun. His spear looked like a tree trunk. The sound of his footsteps alone shook the ground. And every day, he shouted the same challenge. No one moved. Not one soldier, not even King Saul. Fear had already defeated them before the battle even began. And for 40 days, far from the battlefield, David lived among sheep. He was the youngest son of Jesse, small, overlooked, ignored by his older brothers. While warriors trained for battle, David protected sheep from lions and bears. While kings wore crowns, David sat beneath the stars singing songs to God. No one saw greatness in David, but God did. David spent long nights alone in the wilderness, and in those lonely fields, he chased the beast into darkness, grabbed it with his bare hands, and struck it down. Another time, a bear came. Again, David fought. Again, he survived. The wilderness was preparing him for something far greater, because while Israel saw a shepherd, one morning Jesse called David, "Take food to your brothers at the battlefield." David obeyed immediately. As he approached the valley of Elah, he heard shouting echo across the mountains. The armies suddenly became uneasy. Fear spread like wildfire through the camp. Then David saw him, Goliath. The giant stepped forward, roaring like a beast. David looked around, expecting someone to answer. No one moved. Not one warrior stepped forward. David couldn't understand it. How could the armies of God fear this man? But his older brother Eliab became angry. Word quickly spread through the camp. A shepherd boy wanted to fight the giant. David was brought before King Saul. Saul stared at him in disbelief. This was no warrior, just a teenager. But David spoke with unusual confidence, not arrogance, faith. For the first time in weeks, someone in Israel spoke without fear. Saul hesitated, then finally agreed. But first, he gave David his royal armor.
"You are only a boy, and Goliath has fought since his youth. When a lion attacked my sheep,
When a bear came, God protected me. The same God who saved me then will save me now."
The armor was too heavy, too big, too unnatural. David removed it because David understood something the army did not. Victory would not come from armor. It would come from God. David walked toward a small stream. The battlefield watched in silence. Then David bent down and chose 5 smooth stones. Not swords, not shields, stones. The soldiers whispered in confusion. Was this bravery or madness? But David remembered every lonely night in the wilderness, every prayer, every battle, every moment God protected him. This was not the beginning of David's faith. It was the result of years of prep. Then came the moment nobody expected. David walked onto the battlefield, alone. No armor, no sword, just a sling in his hand. Goliath stared at him, then laughed. The Philistine army erupted in mockery, but David did not stop walking. Fearlessly, he answered the giant. Suddenly, everything changed. David began. The battlefield held its breath. David reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, and swung the sling faster and faster and faster. Then he released it. The stone cut through the air like lightning, straight toward the giant. Crack! The stone struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant froze. Silence swept across the valley. Then slowly, the mighty warrior collapsed face first into the earth. The ground shook upon impact. The impossible had happened. The giant was dead. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Israel exploded with victory. The soldiers who once hid in fear now charged into battle. The Philistines panicked. Their champion was gone. David stood over the fallen giant, breathing heavily, covered in dust. The shepherd boy had defeated the greatest warrior alive, not with power, not with armor, but with news of the victory spread across Israel like wildfire. Songs were sung about David. Crowds celebrated him. But not everyone was happy, because while Israel saw a hero, King Saul began to see a threat. And this victory was only the beginning of David's journey. The shepherd boy would one day become king, but before the crown would come betrayal, war, loss, and David's story reminds us of something powerful. Sometimes the battle looks impossible. Sometimes fear feels bigger than faith. Sometimes the giant standing before you seems undefeatable. But the greatest victories are not won by strength alone. They are won by courage, faith, and trusting God when everyone else is afraid. If you enjoyed this cinematic Bible story, subscribe now for more powerful Bible stories brought to life in stunning 3D animation. And comment below, what was the biggest giant David faced before fighting Goliath? Until next time.